Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, call 920-435-2973 or visit pl-259.com.
Here's the snap. Rapp takes the rig. He breaks through the pileup. He's on 80, now 40, now 20, 15, 10, 2 meters. Touchdown, Ham Talk Live.
It's Ham Radio with Neil Rapp. Here we go. Welcome to Ham Talk Live. Call in, let's talk. Neil's your guy. Ham Talk Live. Here we go on Ham Talk Radio.
And a good evening, everyone. It's Ham Talk Live, episode number 89. The Puerto Rico Disaster Communications trip with Val NV9L, recorded live on Thursday, November 9th, 2017. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, and thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight we're joined by Val Hotzfeld NV9L, and we'll take your calls live in a few minutes. Last week here on the show, Don Greenbaum, N1DG, was here to talk about the Baker Island de-expedition, and if you missed that, check it out over at hamtalklive.com or on a podcasting app like Stitcher or Apple Podcasts, iHeart Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, SoundCloud. We're also over on YouTube, so you can check those out whenever you can. So after a while, we will take your calls. I'll go ahead and give you the phone number, but we're not ready for calls just yet. It's 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. Or you can Skype us. We're Ham Talk Live on Skype. You can also tweet us. Our Twitter handle is @HamTalkLive, so you can reach us that way. And we're going to talk to Val for a little bit first, and then we'll take some questions from you all. So hope to talk to you and interact with you tonight. We're on the air every Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here at hamtalklive.com. And check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And we're just about, I think, 10 away from 1,000 on Facebook. So be sure to like us over on Facebook. Well, Valerie NV9L is with us tonight. She is originally from Wisconsin and now resides in Illinois. Val is a co-host on the video podcast Ham Nation, where she usually contributes information about DXing and contesting. Valerie is one of the most noted YLs in the hobby and spends most of her weekends on the air working contests along with her fiance Jerry, WB9Z. She's a member of many DX and contesting clubs and an ARRL volunteer examiner. She's also been the North American pilot station for Amsterdam Island back in 2014, Wake Island in 2013, and Swain Island in 2012, and I believe Bouvet is coming up here soon that she'll be piloting as well. Besides her ham radio obsession, she enjoys camping, traveling, hiking, fishing, bowling, gardening, and baking if she has time left over to do all of that. And just a couple of weeks ago, she returned from Puerto Rico, where she was working on a team doing some disaster communication. So Val, thanks for coming back on Ham Talk Live.
Well, thanks for having me, Neil. Glad to be back. And, you know, were you ever in radio broadcasting or something? You've got that great radio voice. Okay, I can tell.
Yes. Yeah, it was kind of a temporary gig, but I did a few years of that, and that's actually when I wanted to start doing talk radio, and instead it was country. It was playing country music. So if I would play the song backwards, I would get my dog back. The truck would start running again.
The sun would come out.
The sun would come out. My wife came back, and everything was great. So, I did the broadcasting thing for a while, and it was fun, but I didn't stay in it.
Me too. I was on WGFA, World's Greatest Farming Area, so a lot of farm reports and soil temperatures and rain gauge reports.
There we go. We had a guy that did the hog reports, and it kind of reminds me of Les Nessman on WKRP. But we had this guy that did Gary Truitt.
Turkeys could fly.
Yes. It's about time to watch that episode too. I always have to watch that one right before Thanksgiving. But there was this guy, Gary Truitt, who would always do the hog reports, and we would always run those. And I was like, oh, no, okay, all right, I'll get through it. Well, we're here to talk a little bit about the Puerto Rico trip, and this was a really unique opportunity. So first of all, you've been on, of course, Ham Nation talking about this, and there's been some shows that have been talking about this. And one of the things that you talked about was how you applied for the position. I wanted to go a little deeper with that, and how the selection process took place, whatever you know about that. But you said you actually applied for this in your car?
Well, we were at Sedco, W4DXCC down in Pigeon Forge that weekend. We were in the car driving back Sunday, and I saw that they had posted they were looking for volunteers. And I was just on the heels of volunteering. My son and I went down for Hurricane Harvey, doing small animal rescue, and I kind of got hooked. And so when I saw that, I asked Jerry if I could go, and he said sure. So I applied in the car Sunday afternoon. Probably somewhere between Tennessee and Illinois, and I led with my my ICS certs and my Aries training, and just different things like that were pertinent to the mission, my WinLink knowledge. And the next morning, Monday morning, I get a call from Mike Corey at the ARRL. He kind of did a phone screening. And kind of went over some of those things, and can I do this? Can I do that? And all that. And so I must have passed the phone screen, because later that afternoon, the ARRL ran a full background check and a credit report, I guess, on all of us. And by Tuesday, I had my marching orders to fly out Wednesday. So it happened very fast.
Yeah, it sounded like it was a really quick opportunity to throw together and try to make it all work, and I'm amazed that they were able to get all those checks done. But with any kind of government thing like me teaching, we got to run background checks on a guest speaker, so we got to have all that paperwork in hand.
Well, I was really impressed, because I think I found out from Mike Corey the Red Cross contacted the ARRL Friday evening wanting to put this team together, and so they had to have an emergency conference call Saturday, said go for it. Sunday they put out the call, and then they had to order all that equipment, the Pelican cases, put all that stuff together and have it waiting for us in Atlanta on Wednesday. So I think it's pretty amazing how both agencies moved to get this going. Usually I pictured them to, agencies to move a lot slower.
Yeah. This was a very quick thing, and that's how it goes a lot of times. Whenever you get on, one of these disaster relief or disaster assessment teams, you never really know what's going to happen. So you were called on to do some things down there, and as the disaster assessments and things that I've been on, you never had a clue what you were going to end up doing. Usually there's no plan at all.
Well, I mean, the plan originally was to do safe and well traffic with the Red Cross, go out with their teams of Red Cross workers, and to put into the spreadsheet the people in that town that were safe and well. and then we would upload that via WinLink, and it would end up in the Red Cross Safe and Well database. But very quickly upon arriving, that mission was changed pretty quickly because there was no communications on the island. I mean, we had to land an international airport on a jetliner. There was 164 of us Red Cross workers on this plane at an uncontrolled airport. And I've taken flying lessons. It's scary when you're flying in a little Cessna to land at a rinky-dinky uncontrolled airport. But so, I mean, we were one of the first people down there. So, there was definitely a few hiccups, lots of hiccups, but that was to be expected because nothing on this scale had ever happened before. So
yeah, you never know what's going to hit, and as soon as you get down there, it's like, okay, no, we really need this, and so that's what you did. So
I mean,
you even had some other stuff going on, like I know you had to switch over to the hospitals after a while, and then and you actually on your day off, I know you guys just actually went and delivered some stuff.
Well, when they started passing out assignments to everybody, I sort of got assigned to do the administrative stuff. So I didn't really get to go out in the field and get deployed out in the action, and I was stuck at the, well, not stuck, I should say, but I was at the convention center without a vehicle, and just kind of that's where I slept on the first floor and worked on the third floor, and a lot of meetings, a lot of paper pushing, a lot of forms and, things to fill out, and trying to find the right people to get this done or that done. So there was just a lot of that, So it wasn't really the sexy part of the of the activation, but it was very interesting. I really learned a lot. I definitely have lots of ideas on how things can be tweaked and made better going forward. Not just from our division, but from other divisions. I mean, I was kind of shocked, like FEMA didn't have any kind of ticketing software. So like we'd get a call for generator fuel at this hospital or oxygen tanks or, whatever they needed. And we'd put that in request in, and then they'd say, okay, we got it. And we forwarded it on. And then that's all we'd hear from them, so we didn't know if it actually had been taken care of. So things like that, there's a lot of, things that could be different, I guess.
Yeah. And we'll talk about some of that stuff, but, every opportunity, is a learning opportunity. So there were some things that can definitely be learned from this one. Well, I know you've got tons and tons and tons of stories, and already you said the toughest part of this tonight was, how do I pick just one?
I can't.
But pick just one and tell us about it. Well, maybe two if you can do it quickly.
None of my stories are very glamorous. I mean, like we were able to work it out with one of the fire station people. If we put one of our ham radio operators in their fire station down in Yuncos, where their search and rescue was out of, then they would give safe harbor to all Red Cross workers, which was pretty pivotal because once that they signed a letter that the Red Cross workers could take or have on their phone, so they could show up to any fire station. They had 72 fire stations on the island, and they could get a safe place to stay and food and water, and that really was a game changer. So then we didn't need to have two-man teams. We could just have one-man teams. Red Cross didn't just have to do day trips. They could turn into 2-day trips. So that was kind of cool. Just something as simple as that, giving them one ham radio operator. Tim Maloney, I think, N9RRM was at that location and did a lot of cool things to help them provide communications between the fire station down in Yuncos and to the EOC. So, but I mean, some of these guys did some great stuff. I mean, Andy, all the work he did at the dam, Kilo Echo Zero Alpha Yankee Juliet did some amazing stuff there. It's just from clearing an area and spray painting out a helipad circle, with that H, and he even had to do one with like a sideways H or something that means you have to kind of come in at an angle. I don't know. He knows so much, and he was able to treat people with dysentery when a tainted water truck was providing water there, and he helped Army Corps of Engineers to help keep the dam from breaching. So he did a lot of wonderful things. I mean, so many of these guys just did so many wonderful things outside the scope of ham radio. So it was it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool, and a lot of people truly saved lives. I mean, this, especially once we moved them into the hospitals, once we were with these FEMA meetings and figured out that these hams needed to be in the hospitals, and that sort of changed a lot of the mission instead of just doing safe and well. So it was pretty cool. It's hard to, like you say, put it down to just one story.
Yeah.
So many cool things happened on this. I mean, were there mistakes and were there issues? Of course there were. And that's the thing. When you go into any disaster, nothing's going to go according to plan. And that's a really important characteristic, is to be able to change on the fly and adapt and put out the fires on a daily basis, and trying to come up with solutions. So there was a lot of that.
Absolutely. I've worked just tornadoes, which are fairly locally, isolated, and there's always, a proverbial fire here and there, and you got to go put those out and try to take care of those things, and you just got to roll with it.
Even on an Aries drill, they're not going to go according to plan. From my Aries, nothing goes according to plan. So, that's why you have a lot of those drills to work those kinks out. But we didn't have that luxury. None of us had ever worked before. This was all put together very quickly because it had to be. They needed us there right away. So, it was pretty amazing how we really changed a lot of people's mindset on what amateur radio can provide. People just didn't realize how valuable we were until we were there, and we got to see it firsthand. They just appreciated everything those guys that being deployed did, that they were there and we could talk to them. And if they needed to evacuate a patient and wanted to verify it, they could just come over to the radio and we could find out right away. And so that was very cool.
Yeah, excellent work, and we thank you for all that you've done and the team. And my little story was one of your colleagues, Joe Bassett. Normally, we talk to him during School Club Roundup week from school, and he's usually on the air with a group of kids and working as many schools as we can. And I happened to catch him on chat, and he was just like, "Man, I miss School Club Roundup. Man, I miss School Club Roundup, but I'm down here in Puerto Rico." And I said, "Oh, I've been telling the kids about all of this, at school." I said, is there any way we can work? And he's like, "Well, yeah, we're kind of winding down. I'm just manning the radio here. We can try it." And we tried once and couldn't hear a thing. And then we tried again the next day, and the kids were very excited to talk to him, even though it was just for a minute or two. We're exposing them to, this is what you can do with ham radio. And a lot of those kids, weren't, all of them this time, were not licensed yet. And so they're, operating the school station with me, and that's an incentive for them to start to get involved and do some of those things. So it was really cool just to talk to Joe for a couple minutes.
Yeah, I originally met Joe. It's kind of weird. I was helping doing dispatching for Hurricane Irma, and I put a call out needing some help evacuating an apartment complex that was senior citizens. And there was only one guy there and trying to evacuate them before it flooded. And so him and a couple of his guys got in the car and went to go and try and help evacuate this apartment complex. And then, that was in Florida, just near Jacksonville. And all of a sudden I'm at the airport, and there's Joe, and he's like, "NV9L, Val," so I got to meet him in person after talking to him on the radio, so that was kind of cool.
Yep. Oh, and I see Joe's
Good
in the
guy.
chat. Yeah, Joe's listening. He says, "I'm here." So,
Hey, Joe.
I see him. Hi, Joe. We're
He's
talking
probably
about
the better
you.
one to interview because he was in net control and knows more about a lot that happened. I was at the EOC, so I got traffic. We got traffic over there of needs and wants from the fire stations or the hospitals from our ham radio operators relaying traffic. But he got to probably get more immersed in a lot of the happenings going on there.
Yep. Oh, he says hi, Val. So, yep, he's over here in the
good guy.
chat. So,
Really good
yeah,
guy.
he is. Well, thanks to everyone on the team for your service, and the ones who donated the equipment. I know a lot of that equipment was donated and just shipped right away, and made it to Atlanta for you guys, and made all these last minute arrangements as much as possible. So thanks to everyone for pitching in to do that. Some incredible work done there, and you all deserve our respect and gratitude. It was really unique. I don't remember, and I don't think there ever has been a deployment like this that was sent somewhere that required, an airplane ride and all the equipment to be, boxed up and sent over and organized. And it was something that was really different. I mean, ARRL normally isn't doing logistical stuff, and they just kind of hopped in and ran with it. So, with all the unknowns and all the great things, you had an opportunity to learn. So why don't you talk a little bit about what you did learn from doing this effort? You always have something that you can learn and do better next time and everything. So if we do have something like this in the future, if there is a next time, what can we take away from this? What can we learn?
Well, I think one of the hardest part is none of us knew each other. None of us knew what talents or, what everybody's best at, or, think different things. I think going forward, it would be nice to put together some kind of task force or group already pre-trained. They can do drills and beforehand and be ready to go. And each one, would have their roles. So that's a cool thing to have going forward, is everybody's trained, everybody knows each other, or have worked with each other before. So that was a little bit of a learning curve, because we were all strangers, basically. I would really like to see FEMA have some kind of ticketing software. That would have been really nice to have. The kits, I think we really needed those dual bands with the 50 watts for where we were. The HTs were great when you're all in one building together, close to each other. But I think, thank God, Red Cross happened to have 8 dual band mobile rigs, so they could get 50 watt units out on location. So that was pretty nice. They ordered them 2 to a case. So when they ordered the antennas, they only ordered 4 antennas because they saw 4 cases. So there was only 4 meg mount antennas. But luckily FEMA provided the other 4. We did some networking and found out who to talk to. And Gary, I think, was real instrumental, Gary Sessoms, in getting us 4 more antennas. So we had 8 dual bands. So that would be nice to include in the kit. There's, a couple things like that. There's a lot of tweaking and things that could be done different. But for the most part, I mean, with what we had and the little amount of time and how quickly this was put together, I think our team did outstanding. They really did wonderful.
I would agree. And again, glad that you're able to roll with the punches and make some of that work. And yeah, when you don't have antennas, you just gotta go with it. But yeah, I agree. From what I've been hearing, the mobile rigs would have been a big help.
And who knows, maybe that might have been a logistical issue, because they had to order this stuff bright and early Monday morning, get it overnighted Tuesday, put them all in the kits, ship them out Tuesday. So they're waiting in Atlanta on Wednesday. And it's not like you're ordering 3 or 4. You're ordering 20 of them.
Yeah.
So you have to go with what they have 20 something of, So a 7300 would have been nice, but I'm sure they probably didn't have that many of that, So they, so you're kind of limited. But if that stuff is all there ready to go for the just in case down the road, then that can be prepared and planned for,
Sure. And Joe mentions here too that some redundancy in the HF equipment kits would have been helpful.
Yeah. Well, it's nice if everybody's kind of trained on the same equipment. Is that what he's talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. and
But,
you know, and have some backups.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, on my day off, when we went out dropping off radios, and I dropped off groceries as well to some people in a certain area that were lacking food and water. If you don't have cash, you don't have food or water. So, or you don't have food anyway. So there's a lot of people definitely needing stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. And we've posted a couple of pictures of that happening. And I know even around here, when we had some big ice storms down in Kentucky a few years ago, and all the power's out for a week, and it's the same kind of thing. It's if you don't have cash, you're pretty much out of luck because you don't have a way to run the debit card through.
Correct. Cash is king in any times of emergency. And maybe these people pulled out what they had, and maybe they only had, some people might only have $50, $60. So that's not going to last you very long down there. So I really feel for the people of Puerto Rico. This is going to be a long time before they're fully recovered down there. And my heart goes out to all of those people. They've really dealt with a lot and still are.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about next. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to start taking some of these tweets and chats and calls and all this. The board's lighting up already, so we'll get some of those questions in and be back with Val right after this word from Tower Electronics right here on Ham Talk Live.
This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you in part by Tower Electronics. Tower Electronics has been the Ham's dime store since 1978. When you need connectors, mobile and handheld antennas, cables, or adapters, visit Scott or Jill at a Hamfest near you. Or you can order online at pl-259.com or call 920-435-2973. Stock up on those supplies like PL259 and N connectors, SMA adapters, audio cables, soldering supplies, mobile antennas, and ham sticks. Their silver-plated N connectors are even used on the International Space Station. Tower Electronics carries MFJ, Comet, Daiwa, OPEC, Workman, and Ham Pro products. And don't miss their 0% off sale going on now. Tower Electronics, online at pl-259.com, proud to sponsor this episode of Ham Talk Live.
This portion of the show sponsored by our mystery sponsor, a product so good they are paying us not to advertise it on this program. You're listening to Ham Talk Live with Neil Rapp. Join the conversation. Call us on voice with Skype at Ham Talk Live or give us a call at 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261. Now, here's more Ham Talk Live.
Thanks to Scott and Jill at Tower Electronics for sponsoring the show tonight to help bring you Ham Talk Live. This weekend, November 10th and 11th, they're in Montgomery, Alabama at the Hamfest there. And then the 18th and 19th, they'll be at Fort Wayne, Indiana. And December 1st and 2nd, they'll be down in Ocala, Florida. And December 8th and 9th in Plant City, Florida. And if you're not at one of those Hamfests, give them a call at 920-435-2973 or visit their website, pl-259.com. Tell them Ham Talk Live sent you, and be good to catch up with Scott and Jill. So thanks for sponsoring the show, and make sure you patronize Tower Electronics. We appreciate their support. Well, it's time for your calls and your questions for Val. The phone number is 812-NET-HAM1, 812-638-4261, or you can Skype us or tweet us, and we've even got activity in the chat on Spreaker here tonight, so we'll take some of those. But first off, I want to lead with something about what's going on right now, and I know you don't have a lot of information on this, but they still need our help. There's still a lot going on, and as you said, our hearts really go out to them for all the things that they're going to have to work on over the next year or more. So what's going on right now, and what's the immediate future look like for communications down there?
Well, I still do get the ESTF2 Task Force Communication Operational Update reports every day. I'm still on their list. So I'm pulling out my current report today. They give you things like there's 2,693 cell sites in Puerto Rico. I remember when I first got there, I think only 300 or 400 were up. Right now, there's 1,500 up. So there's still 1,182 cell sites down. So they only have 56% of the sites up. But that's going to be a long time because most of these are in the center of the island, which is very mountainous. And mudslides took a lot of the roads out. I know they had to airlift a lot of the Air Force guys onto these mountaintops. And they would just camp and stay there, the Air Force tower climbers. And clean up the towers and get ready for the ants on a hill operation, which is what they called it when they would go out and put antennas up. But so it looks like things are getting a lot better in that department. I know water is going to be an issue for a long time, especially up in the northwest side of the island near by the Coahuataca Dam and Quebradilla, Isabela, and Aguadilla. There's about 350,000 people that it's going to be a long time before they have water because their channel was destroyed. And that's a 10 and a half mile channel through really rugged terrain with no roads. That was all just mudslided away. So I know water is going to be an issue for quite some time down there. It just, and you know what? And I forgot to thank the local hams on the island too. I just really want to give a shout out to those guys. The local guys, even though they were impacted and their families and their homes were impacted, I mean, it looked like a tornado hit that whole island. They were on that, the local repeater every day helping the power company bring up the grid. And so they really deserve a big round of applause. So, yeah, I really don't know that much about what's going on now. I haven't really talked to Oscar. I talked to him on his birthday and things were going all right. He misses all of us and wishes we were still down there. And I wish I was still down there, and I'm sure a lot of us still do. I thought our activation went way too fast, and it would have been nice to stay at least another week or two. But it is what it is, and so they have shares radio operators down there right now. And I think their activation's probably going to be ending in the next 10 days or so because they sort of came in as we were leaving, and they were going to be active for 30 days. So that's got to be coming up pretty soon.
Okay, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen after they leave then.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're renewing and bringing another 30. I will try and get on the phone with Oscar and try and get more details. I know he's been very busy. I did just talk to Angel Vasquez over at, he is out at the Arecibo, and he finally has internet on our steady basis, and he said he wanted to make sure I was one of the first ones he emailed, and so they're doing well. He said water's still an issue even by them. They're just north of the town of Arecibo, heading up towards the observatory. So it's going to be a while before everybody's back to normal there. A pretty long time.
Yeah, sure is. So again, a big round of applause, and we'll play a real round of applause here for the locals over
for the locals,
Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
great job. All right, well, let's see if we can knock out some of these questions here. Like I said, the board's lighting up here tonight, so I'll quit asking my stuff and start looking at these. David Wilma asks, can you explain the FEMA Communications Task Force you mentioned on Ham Nation a little bit ago?
Oh, sure. That was put together. You know, I had been working at the EOC probably the third or fourth day into our deployment, and they just put that together. I want to say the first. Let me see. I have all my emails still. Oh my God, I got so many emails. It was crazy how much paperwork I had to do. Kickoff meeting follow-up was on September 30th. So that was pretty early on that started. And it was, you know, it wasn't just FEMA. I mean, the FCC was there, DOD, National Guard, Secret Service, VAs, External Affairs group was there. They sort of handle a lot of things with like Health and Human Services and different things and combining efforts so things didn't get done or duplicated. So they were there. For MERS. I mean, there's so many people in there that it's really hard to remember everybody, but there was all these different groups that had anything to do with communications was in that meeting, at least one person from that group in that meeting. And that's where we kind of hashed out and solved problems with trying to get communications on that island. Because that was the number one thing. I mean, people need food and water, but you need safety. And in order for that, you need communications. It's like communications, you need that before you could get a lot of that other stuff. So especially when we first got there, safety was a big concern. So that's pretty much, we had that every day, even on Saturdays and Sundays. No one really took a day off. Everybody pretty much did 12-hour days there. And we'd have that meeting every morning and work on ways to come up with and solve these problems. At one point they needed people at the hospitals. That's where we originally got the thing to do the hospitals. And there were 51 operational hospitals, but they didn't know which ones had communications, which ones didn't. So I had to go around to all these different tables till I find someone who could give me a list of hospitals and phone numbers. And I went out on the balcony because I got the best cell service out there. And I just started calling them. If they answered the phone, I hung up, and I was like, okay, we don't need to send a ham there. You just got to kind of go with the flow and do what you can to figure things out, because everything was just happening so fast, and there was no communication. So that was really the number one thing that we really had to work on.
Yeah. Now David's following up here, asking, what did they do?
Who do?
The FEMA task force.
We would put together.
Job?
Well, they put together teams to go out, and the Ants on a Hill operation, and all these different different people. It was what was really hard with a lot of this, with these cell sites too. Nobody knows who owns what, and if then you finally figured out who owned that tower, how do you get a hold of them? The phones don't work. So how do you get out there? And and if the roads aren't working, and there was a lot of obstacles to try and just bring communications to that island. They handed satellite phones to the hospitals, the mayors, the police, but that doesn't. Who you're going to call? The other person on the other end has to be outside with a clear view of the sky, happen to have the sat phone on, So it's really, and then the satellites were overtaxed because it's not used to having that many people with a satellite phone. So it was just coming up with ways to solve problems. So in the meeting, then the one guy says, well, I know who to call to get to move in more satellites over Puerto Rico. So they actually moved more satellites over Puerto Rico. So the satellites weren't always busy. It was just stuff like that constantly. There was always obstacles. When you finally do get to these sites, you don't know which generator goes to which cell site, or generators, they go and fuel them up and then someone steal the fuel or steal the generator. There was always, every day, there was just so much to take care of and so many problems to solve, and it was just never ending.
And Joe throws in FBI.
Yeah, they were in there too. Yeah. You name it.
They're everywhere.
And then the second floor of the thing was where the Prima was, which was the Puerto Rico version of FEMA, and Health and Human Services was down there, and that's where the Puerto Rican government officials. But we were up on the third floor, and we did have a Prima official in there as well. It was well represented by anybody in the communication business. Boy, I learned a lot about a lot of things in that meeting, and dealing with those people even when the meetings were over, trying to solve problems. So, yeah.
Dr. Scott Wright, K0MD, says, thank you for your service. So he wanted me to pass that along. He's off in some country doing training right now. So he said it was like 3 a.m.
Well, thank you, Scott.
Live.
Thank you, Dr. Scott.
Let's see. Marty, KC1CWF, asks about lugging the equipment around. Was that a problem? Was it heavy? Were there issues with that?
Well, it was a Pelican case on wheels with a handle, so it's like a extra large, double large suitcase. And they were, I remember looking at the scale when we had to put them on. I'm trying to remember how much they were, maybe 60 pounds. I don't remember. But we really didn't have to lift them. They were on wheels, and you just lug them around, so that was fine.
Okay, and Carl, KD9HQT, says, have you had any antennas during emergency communications where they go down? Like, I know Carl's upset. Today, his mast fell while he was working on it and broke his antenna. But
and of course, it can't happen in the summer. It's got
of course.
Cold out.
Of course. So did you have any backup way to make just a quick dipole or anything like that? Or
well, I personally wasn't deployed. I was at that convention center. So, I mean, at one point we had to move our antenna. We moved it from one end of the convention center to the other. But I'm really not a good person to ask on that. And I really didn't handle the net control, so I didn't hear a lot. I only got the traffic that pertained to people needing things from FEMA, if they needed fuel or airlift, or, you know, they needed oxygen tanks, or, you know, pharma, any kind of meds. So that's mostly what I dealt with at my end. Net control really probably would have been more in the know on that. I was
speaking
really
of net control,
isolated.
he says 56 pounds.
Is that what it was? 56
Yeah.
pounds. Okay. Yeah. So it's not that bad, you know. So we can all pretty much lift 50 pounds. So even me.
David Wilma again asks, would you improve screening for volunteers?
Well, see, that's a hard thing. I mean, how do you know how to screen? I mean, it would be nice if there was a lot of Aries training and things like that. And that's why I think putting together a team beforehand, you know, I mean, FEMA does this. They have people already trained, ready to go. They get put on call when a hurricane's coming. So they're all packed, ready to go if they need to be down there right away. So I think going forward, that's definitely something the ARRL should look into. Or it doesn't even have to be really ARRL. It could be the Aries group puts that together, which is a part of ARRL. But, you know, somebody put together some kind of task force, and they can do drills and practice and, you know, be ready to go. And I think definitely that's going to be a huge thing for them to look at.
And we should have just got Joe on the line here. He's also saying
Yeah,
we had to beg, borrow, and whatever. Backup equipment
From a lot of the
including
It
antennas.
was everything, all our kits. Yeah, people robbed from this kit to take for this kit, and luckily, you know. So, but you know, we ended up being on the air, so that was the important thing, and making it work, and that's what hams do.
Yep, that's the name of the game is making it work, and
They're all MacGyvers.
like I said, yeah, you never know. Yeah, got MacGyver coming in here and making something out of nothing, and that's exactly
you know
what we have to do sometimes.
That really impressed a lot of the other people. These guys were out there fixing generators or air conditioners or doing stuff, you know, that had nothing to do with ham radio. I know many times I did many things that had nothing to do with ham radio. So, and that's what makes, I think, our group so special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like the idea of maybe have a pool of people trained, you know, especially for that. So that way you can, you know, take whoever is available at the time and have a little more training on that. So good lessons learned from all of this, and great work. And Val, our time is up, but I want to thank you so much for coming on. Yeah, it does. It goes by. It goes by quick. Thank you for taking all the questions, and thanks for coming on, and look forward to seeing you here in a few months, and we'll be talking to you.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks so much. And hi to Mom and Dad there for Thanksgiving too.
Okay,
so we'll say hi to them. All right. Well, that's a wrap for this week's edition of Ham Talk Live. I'd like to thank my guest, Val Hotzfeld, NV9L, and everyone out there in cyberspace for chiming in online this evening. Great to have all of your questions. And come back next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to talk to Scott Avery, WA6LIE. He'll be here to talk about remote hams. So a way for you to get on the air when putting up an antenna and a rig may not be possible. For a list of all of our upcoming guests, be sure to visit hamtalklive.com and click on the schedule link. For now, this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7375, and may the good DX be yours.